Okay, students, now we are going to start a very important chapter, students, that is called periodic classification of elements. Now, this is a very important chapter of chemistry, students. In this great and important chapter, we are going to study about something that is called periodic table. That is called periodic table, students. Now, this periodic table is a very important thing of chemistry. It helps us to study chemistry in an easy manner, students. You can see this photograph, students. This is a bed sheet, right? This is a bed sheet you can see, and this structure which you see here is actually periodic table. You cannot understand periodic table right now, but by the end of this chapter you will be able to understand. But you can understand the point which I'm trying to make here. Now think how important this periodic table must be, that somebody has printed this periodic table on his bed sheet, isn't it, students? Now see, somebody has printed this table, this periodic table on his coffee mug. Somebody has printed this periodic table on his car, students. Somebody is wearing a shirt on which periodic table is printed. So you can understand how important this periodic table must be. It is very important, students. This is one of the very important things of chemistry. It helps us to study chemistry in an easy manner. In fact, I will not be wrong, students, if I tell that this periodic table is like Quran for chemistry. It is like Gita for chemistry. It is like Bible for chemistry. It is so important for chemistry. And I guarantee you that by the time we finish this chapter, you will be a good expert in periodic table. You will get a good command on it. Now, students, look at this photograph, students. Now, look at this. This is aluminum, students. Look at this. This is barium. This is bromine. This gas is bromine. This shiny substance is sodium. This yellow substance is sulfur. This very shiny substance is gallium. Like this, students, total there are 115 elements which are found in the universe. And one of the important jobs which we need to do while studying chemistry is to study about the properties of all these elements, students. Is to study about the properties of all these elements. Now, students, all these elements have different properties. You can see I've taken photographs of 6 elements here. They all look so different from each other, isn't it, students? So if we talk about 115 elements, they will be very different from each other. And students, think how difficult it will be to study about their properties. You will study about one element, then second element, then third element, fourth element, and so on. You have to study about 115 elements. It will take years for you to study about these many elements. And if we have to study all these elements in great detail, chemistry will become such a difficult subject, students. You might be thinking it's difficult even now, but anyways, it will become even more difficult, students, right? So I hope you understand my point here. So what is done, students, that these 115 elements, they are divided in some groups. They are divided in groups. They are divided in groups, small groups. Okay. That makes our job easier. See, out of these 115 elements, some of the elements will have slightly similar type of properties. Not exactly same, but some of the elements will have slightly different, slightly similar type of properties. They will all be put in one group, right? Then other elements which have slightly similar type of properties, they will be kept in another group. Like that, many groups are made, and then those groups are studied, right, students? So that is what we are going to see in this chapter actually. Now, students, to get the idea even better, think of a grocery shop, students. This is a photograph of a grocery shop. You know that in a grocery shop, lots and lots of things are sold. Different variety of things are sold. Okay, but all these things are kept in a very organized manner. Now, suppose all these things are kept in a very haphazard manner. Something is here, something is there, like that. Then what will happen? Suppose you go to the shop and you ask the shopkeeper that I want Coke. Okay. Now, if everything is placed in a haphazard manner, it will take him few days, students, to look for a bottle of Coke, isn't it? So what is done in a grocery shop, that groups are made. You can see all the chocolates have been kept here, students. So this is a group of chocolates. All similar looking bottles have been kept at one place. So this is group of such bottles. It looks like all the health drinks have been placed here or here, right, students? So this is another group. All the cold drinks has been kept here. And like this, students, it looks like all the pickles have been placed here. So groups have been made. Groups have been made. This is a group of pickles, this is a group of cold drinks, this is a group of chocolates, and so on. Now, if you go and ask for something like some particular brand of chocolate, the shopkeeper knows that he will find it here. So he'll come and look here. Right, students? So such arrangement of items, is a very helpful thing. Right, students? So here also we have like 115 elements. So we need to arrange them in small groups so that we can study them in a easy manner. Okay, students, now different attempts to group elements. Now see, students, the task in front of us is to group 115 elements into different groups so that it is easy to study. Now, do you think this is an easy task, students? Not at all, not at all. This is a very complicated task. There are so many elements. You have to decide which groups have to be made, which element has to go in which group, and so on, students. So it's a very difficult task. So many scientists, many great scientists in the past tried to make these groups. Some failed, some succeeded. So that is what actually we are going to see now. We are going to see some different attempts to group the elements by different scientists. So a lot of scientists tried to group these elements, but we'll see only some of those attempts which are significant. So students, first such significant attempt is called Dobinier's triads. Dobinier's triads. Look at the spelling carefully, students, from exam point of view, and pardon me if I am wrong in my pronunciation a bit. Okay, Dobinier's triads. So students, this grouping was done by this scientist actually, whose name was Dobinier. In 1829, he did this grouping. Okay, so we'll see what type of grouping he did. Students, in 1829, when he actually did his grouping, there were only 30 elements which were known to us, to the humankind. Around 30 elements known to the humankind. Today, 115 elements are known to humankind. But that time, science was not that developed, and so only 30 elements were known to the humankind. So that made his job easier, isn't it? Because he had to group only these many elements. Because only these many elements were known, right? So his job was a bit easier. So let us see what he tried to do. So students, he made three triads. Basically, we can say in layman's term that he tried to make three groups, which he called triads. So students, in the first triad, he kept these three elements. Which elements, students? Lithium, sodium, potassium. Please look carefully, students. You will need to learn these names. These questions will be asked in the exams. That in the first triad, which three elements were put? So you have to say lithium, sodium, and potassium, students. So he kept these three elements in the first triad. Then, students, in the second triad or the second group, he kept these three elements: calcium, strontium, and barium, students. You need to remember all these three. Then, students, in the third triad which he made, and the last triad that he made, he kept chlorine, bromine, and iodine. These three elements. And what he said was that all the elements in a triad are similar in nature, means their properties are somewhat similar. So according to him, these three elements, lithium, sodium, and potassium, are in the same triad, so their properties should be similar. Similarly, these three elements in the second triad should have similar properties, and similarly these three elements in the third triad should have similar property. Now students, such a grouping helps us a lot. How it helps us a lot? Now suppose you want to study all these all these nine elements. So in a normal situation, what you will have to do, you have to study all these nine one by one, and it will take a lot of time, right? Because you have to study 9 elements, so it will take a lot of time. Now, after this grouping, what you can do is, students, you can just study lithium, you can just study calcium, you can just study chlorine, right? Now, if you study just these three, most of the work has been done. Because Anyway, sodium and potassium have their properties somewhat similar to lithium. So once you have studied lithium, you can think that you have pretty much studied these two elements as well. Once you have studied calcium, you can pretty much think that you have studied these two elements as well. Once you have studied chlorine, you can pretty much think that you have studied even these two elements pretty much, right? So now the job becomes easier. That is the advantage of grouping which we are trying to do here, students. So here we can write this important point, students. What is this important point? That elements in a triad, okay, now you can also understand how this name triad came. Triad basically means three. Tri stands for three. So triad basically stands for three. So in every group there were three elements. That's why he called it triad. Triad means a group of three. Okay, so according to the scientist Daubigny, elements in a triad have similar properties. Okay, students. Okay, students. Look at one more small thing here. Now, you know these elements in this group are also known by one more term, that is called, by one more name actually, that is called alkali metals. So students, you just need to remember this. This is a very important term. If somebody tells you in chemistry that we are talking about alkali metals, you should quickly understand that we are actually talking about lithium, sodium and potassium. So these three elements together are also called alkali metals. Then these three elements together are also called alkaline earth metals. So once again, you must remember this, that if somebody is talking about alkaline earth metals, what it means is that he's talking about calcium, he's talking about strontium, he's talking about barium. Then these three elements combined are called halogens. Okay, students, just a small thing. Okay, now coming back to these triads, I'm going to tell you one more interesting thing, which is a very important thing actually. So students, let's focus on this chlorine. So by now we know what is the meaning of atomic mass, right? Atomic mass, right, students? So by now you know what is atomic mass. So what is the atomic mass of chlorine, students? You may not remember, and you don't really need to remember it right now. Atomic mass of chlorine is actually 35.5, right, students? Similarly, all these elements will have different atomic mass. So I'm just going to write down the atomic mass of all of them on their photograph. Okay, students. So for bromine, the atomic mass is 80. For iodine, it's 127. Then barium, 137. Here you can see, all the atomic masses I have written, students. Now, see. Now let's talk about this triad, students. Let's talk about this triad first of all. So let me take the first element and the last element in this triad. Okay, the first and the third element in this triad. Let me talk about these two first. Then at the end, I will talk about the second one. So let me talk about the first and the third. So let me take the average of their atomic masses, or arithmetic mean. Arithmetic mean basically means average. Right, so let me take average of this atomic mass and this atomic mass. So this will be 35.5 plus 127 divided by 2. Right, students? So you know how average is calculated. It's a very simple thing. You have done it so many times in mathematics. Now let us do quickly this exercise, students. So there is 2, then 6, 1 divided by 2. So this will come out to be 81.25. Okay, students, so what do you understand from here? See, we took the first one, we took the last one, we took the average of the atomic mass, and it comes out to be 81.27. Do you see anything special here? Yeah, definitely, students. Look at bromine. Its atomic mass is 80. So this average which we have taken has come very close to 80, very close to atomic mass of bromine, Now this is a very important point, students. Daubigny, the triads which he made, if you take the first and the last element of a triad, and if we take the average of their atomic mass, that is equals to the atomic mass of the second one. So we can write this down, students, that arithmetic mean of atomic mass arithmetic mean of atomic mass of first and third elements of a triad is approximately equal to atomic mass of second element of the triad. Second element of the triad. Right, students? So we have right now tested only the third triad. You can also test the other two triads. So let me test this one, students. So let's do it, students, for the first triad, arithmetic mean. So the arithmetic mean or the average will be taken as 7 plus this one, that is 39 divided by 2, right, students? So this will come out to be 46 divided by 2. So this is 23. This is 23. So you can see this is the second element, that is sodium. So the average of first and third is equals to atomic mass of second, even in this triad. Similarly, students, you can try doing for this triad also, and you will find the same result. Okay. So students, this is all about de Bénier's trait actually. So what was done in this scheme, 3 groups or 3 triads were made, right? And it was told that elements in a triad have similar properties, right? And the second important point about the triads was that if you take the first and the third one, then the average of their atomic mass is very close to the atomic mass of the second one, students. Okay. But students, all this scheme, this entire scheme or grouping actually failed. Right, students? Other scientists actually rejected this grouping. They did not like this grouping. Why, students? Can you think what is the problem with this grouping that other scientists did not like it? Can you think of the problem? Students, very simple. It's very simple. See, in this scheme, only 9 elements have been grouped. But by that time, there were 30 plus elements. Out of which only 9 have been grouped. So the work is incomplete. What about the rest of the elements? How to group them? Other scientists were asking this, right? That you have grouped only 9 elements. What about the other elements? So this work is not complete. So this work was rejected, students. So students, you will be asked that what is the limitation? What is the limitation of de Bénier's trait? What is the limitation of de Bénier's trait? So what will you write, students? You will write that it failed to group all the elements present at that time. It failed to group all the elements present at that time. It could group only 9 elements. So this was the limitation. This was the limitation of this de Bénier's trait, and that's why this was rejected, students. So once this de Bénier's traits were rejected, then other scientists tried to do grouping in different styles. Now we'll see that. So students, the next type of grouping which we are going to study is called Newland's law of octaves. Newland's law of octave. Now Newland is the name of the scientist who actually gave this law, or who actually did this classification or grouping which we are going to study shortly. Okay, and you can see this is his photograph. Like, he looks very intellectual. He was a very good scientist actually. Okay, so students, he gave his classification in the year of 1866. This is obviously after de Bénier. Right? By this time, students, 56 elements were known to humankind. These many elements had been discovered. More elements had been discovered from de Bénier's time. Okay, so now his job was to classify all these elements, students, properly in a group, right? So that it becomes easy to study them. So students, he made a table like this. Look at this. It's a very big table, students. He made a table like this. And if you look at these elements, you will be able to identify them. Like, see this, what is this? This is hydrogen, students. What is this? This is lithium, right? This is potassium, this is sodium, this is copper, this is zinc, right, students? Then, do you know more elements here? This is Sb, this is tin, students. This is carbon. Okay, let's see the last element here. This is thorium, students. This is thorium. Okay, students. So a lot of elements are there in this table. And if you look carefully, if you count all these elements, you will find that all the 56 elements known at that time are actually present in this table, students. So that's a great thing. It means he actually tried to classify all the elements. The problem with Dubinier's traits was that he classified only 9 elements. He left the rest of them. But he has classified all the elements here. Right? All the elements are present in his table. So that's a good thing. Now see how he made this table. That is important. So the first element in this table is hydrogen, students, right? So there's no doubt about it that the first element is hydrogen. Now students, this hydrogen is an element with least atomic mass. Hydrogen is an atom with least atomic mass. Now, atomic mass of lithium is slightly greater. Atomic mass of B is even greater. Then atomic mass of B is greater again. Atomic mass of C is further greater. Atomic mass of nitrogen is further greater. Atomic mass of oxygen is further greater. Then atomic mass of fluorine is further greater. Sodium further greater. Magnesium further greater. Right? So you understand how this arrangement has been done. So he took the element with least atomic mass and put it at the top of the table. Then he took that element with higher atomic mass, then the element with next higher atomic mass, and so on. So as you go ahead in this table, atomic mass increases. So that is a very important point regarding Newland's table. What? As we move ahead in table, atomic mass increases. Right, students? A very simple thing. Now, Newland gave a law regarding this table. So let us look at that law, students. If elements are arranged by increasing atomic mass, as he did in his table, if elements are arranged by increasing atomic mass, property of every 8th element starting from the given element repeats. Property of every 8th element repeats. Now let me tell you what is the meaning of this law actually. Students, see, this is our first element, this is our second element, this is our third element, this is the fourth element, this is fifth element, this is seventh element, this is this was the sixth, this is seventh element, and this is the 8th element. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and then 8th element. Right, students? So what this law is telling, that the properties of this first and 8th element, elements will be similar, students. Right, students? Then you can see once again, consider this is the first, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5, this is 6, this is 7, and this is 8. Once again, this law says that the properties of these two elements will be similar. And actually the properties of all these three will be similar. So that is what he is saying in his law. Right, students? So this law is also called Newland's law of octaves. Right, students? So this law is called Newland's law of octaves. Now this is a very useful law if you see, because by this law all the elements in this group, all the elements here in this column, all the elements in this column will have similar properties. All the elements in this column will have similar properties. All the elements in this column will have similar properties, and so on. Right? Now this is a great thing, students. Why this is a great thing? Because if you want to study all these elements, what you should do? You should just study any one of them. Say I study chlorine. So if I study chlorine, students, I know fully about chlorine, and because the properties of all these elements are similar to each other, I can pretty much assume that if I have studied chlorine, I pretty much studied all these elements. Right? Similarly, if I want to study all these elements, all I need to do is to study any one of them. So say if I study this one, I can pretty much assume that I have studied almost all of them. So this was a very good law, students. Okay, students. So I hope you are understanding what I'm teaching you, students. But students, I'm sure that there is one thing about this table that must be confusing you since you have seen this table. See, students, in this box there are two elements. In this box there are two elements. Similarly, in this box there are two elements. In this box there are two elements. In this box there are two elements. So you must be thinking, what's going on here? Why there are two elements in these boxes? So students, let me tell you why it is so. When Newland was making this table, he definitely wanted that all the elements in one column, should have same property, isn't it? All the elements in one column should have same property, right? All the elements in one column should have same property, similar properties. So when Newland was making this table, he wanted that all the elements in one column should have similar properties. Now, this nickel should be actually in the next box, isn't it? That's what you are thinking, that this nickel should be actually in the next box. If we put nickel in the next box, this copper will go in this box, zinc will go in this box, Y will go in this box, this will go in this box, this element will go in this box, Se, this will come in this box, and bromine will come in this box, and so on, right? Location of so many elements will change. But students, Newland found that the properties of bromine is similar to fluorine and chlorine. Newland found that the properties of bromine are similar to fluorine and chlorine. Properties of bromine are not similar to elements of this group, properties of elements of this group. So bromine should actually be here. Because its properties are similar to these elements. Right, students? Similarly, if nickel is placed here, copper will come here, right? But Newland found that properties of copper were similar to these elements, Properties of copper were not very similar to these elements, So such things were noticed by Newland. So he decided that if he keeps nickel here, then bromine will be here, and its properties will match with all the other elements in this group, and so on, right, students? The same was seen with other elements. So basically, putting two elements in a single box at some places, ensured that elements in a column have similar properties. That's why he did that. I hope you understand this, students. Okay, students, let me tell you one more interesting thing on a lighter note. Newland actually compared this classification with music, students, with music. Now you must be thinking, what is the relation between this classification and music? Students, music also has 8 notes. And in music, 8th note repeats itself. See, I'll tell you, you'll understand. See, let me tell you the notes of music. Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, sa. So students, you must have heard all this, right? Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, sa. So students, what is happening? See, your first note is sa, second note is re, third note is ga, then fourth note, fifth note, sixth note, seventh note, and then 8th note. So you can see 8th note is same as a first note. So that's what I'm saying, that 8th note is repeating itself. Right? So even in the classification of Newland here, 8th element has same properties, similar properties. So that's how Newland compared his classification with music, students. And even this word octaves has actually come from music. Optics is a word which is used very commonly in music. So Newland actually took this word from music. But dear students, very unfortunately, even this classification which was done by Newland had many problems, and that's why it was rejected by rest of the scientists of the world. So students, we need to see now what were the problems with this classification. Okay, so students, let us start. So we'll see limitations of Newland's law of octaves. Limitations basically means that what were the problems with this Newland's law of octaves, right students? So let us have look at the first problem, that is similarity in properties of elements. Similarity in properties of elements as per the law was seen only up to calcium, students, only up to calcium. What it means, students? Now see, look at the table here. Here we have calcium, students. This is calcium, right students? So see, this law, or basically this classification, tells us that all the elements in one column have similar properties. All the elements in one column have similar properties, and so on, right students? But it was found by other scientists that this was not actually happening. This was happening only till calcium, After calcium, students, this was not happening. This was not happening for all these elements, So as per this law of Newland, all these elements were supposed to have similar properties. But it was actually found that only these three had similar properties. But the rest others did not have similar properties. Okay students, only these three had similar properties, and the rest all in this column did not have similar properties. Only these three had similar properties in this column, and not the rest. Only these two had similar properties, only these two had similar properties, not the rest in the column. So students, you can see this is a big problem. This is a big failure of this classification. So that is what we are talking about. That similarity in properties of elements as per the law was seen only up to calcium. Right? So this is a big problem with this classification. So students, now let us have a look at the second problem. Only 56 elements known by that time were talked about in this grouping. We already know about this thing. At that time, around one element was being discovered every year. The elements to be discovered were not considered in this grouping. So I hope students you understand the point, that all the elements that were discovered by then were there in this table. But actually new elements were being discovered. Very soon we will have 60 elements, then 65 elements, then 70 elements, and so on. So what about the new elements which were being discovered? Where will they be put in this table? That was not being discussed by Newland, right students? So that was a second major problem with this rule or with this grouping. Then students, the third problem we have actually already seen, that at many places two elements were put in single slot, for example cobalt and nickel, right students? So that is not proper, right? Actually there should be only one element in each box. So that was another problem. Then finally the students last problem, the fourth one, iron having property similar to cobalt and nickel was very far from them. So students, iron, cobalt and nickel, these elements have properties very similar to each other. But if you look at the table, see, cobalt and nickel are here, but iron is here. So there is a problem, right? If they have similar properties, they should be in the same column. But they were in different column. So it was well known that iron has properties similar to these two, but still they were not together. So that was another problem.